Excellent. Okay, everyone. So we're going to go ahead and dive into this today. If you're just joining us, let me get Instagram live and up and running here too. If you're just joining us, I want to welcome you to the Friday night wealth creation course. Every single week we do this course. And the reason for this course is to provide economic certainty, financial education, all of the things that I believe Americans and anyone watching this needs right now. Now, if you don't know me, I'm Jerry. I've been doing these courses every single week going on 3 years now. And the main purpose behind this is to provide simple, true, and applicable financial education. Okay, stuff that we can learn and actually apply and win with right off the bat. Right. So I want to keep tonight like very focused on like, what do we do? How do we apply the information we're going to cover tonight? And a big reason for my covering this is I see around a lot of us are caught up in the presidential elections, rightly so. It's freaking crazy what's going on. Lots of confusion, lots of interesting things happening. And so what I want to do is I want to cover, what does this stuff mean for our finances? Okay, what does this stuff mean for our finances? Because it doesn't have no impact. And I want to kind of go into my philosophy behind what's going on and what I'm doing and what I'm telling my clients to do, and hopefully give the ability to you to have some insight on that and apply maybe some of the same things. So really quick, before we get started tonight, I want to lay down a couple of rules. The very first one, I want to make sure Instagram has a good view here. Appreciate you guys. The very first rule that we're going to cover tonight before we dive into the actual course is, if there's anything I say that does not make sense, sounds confusing, goes over your head, makes you feel like you don't know what I'm talking about, any of those things, then I want you to stop and ask questions. Okay. Anytime I'm learning something, anytime I'm reading something, anytime I'm studying something and my attention begins to go elsewhere, it means that I didn't understand what I just read, saw, or heard. And the result of that, my mind, I know, is like a calculator. So it's trying to figure out this equation back here, and I'm trying to keep on going, and it's not coming with me. And so what's going to happen is, if I don't understand something, I'm usually going to quit, and I'm just going to stop listening, and I'm going to tune out and do something easier. Okay. So if you start feeling that way tonight, that means that I said something you didn't understand. And what I want you to do is I want you to ask a question. Okay. If you didn't understand something, ask a question. Ask a question, drop it in the comments. We'll always answer it. Okay. The second rule is only positivity on this stream. Okay. We're not going to go into the left versus the right and the Democrats versus the Republicans. I'll go ahead and say it. I think they're both wrong. Okay. So I'm not in either one of those sides or either one of those camps. But what I'm going to talk about is objectively, how does what's happening impact our finances? Okay. Now, there are some politics going on. There are some things that we're going to cover that maybe might get some people charged up with their rant on their political state or whatever they're interested in with politics. Guys, the rule here is keep it positive. This is not a place for negativity. This is a place for us to learn about money. Okay. There's a reason why I do these courses every week. So if I'm watching this and I have the inkling, what's up, Vanessa? Good to see you. If I have the inkling to start criticizing the other people's political beliefs or trying to make everyone believe mine, we're not even going to acknowledge you. Okay. That's not what this is about. So all politics aside, whether you're a Democrat or Republican or libertarian or freaking the guy that wore a boot on his head that one time, I don't care what you are. Money impacts your life, and you have an economy happening, whether your guy wins or not. And that's what I want to talk about. And then the final thing is, again, ask questions. I will answer all of your questions in the comments at the very end. So we'll scroll through and kind of answer everything as we go. But I do want tonight to be a little bit conversational, right? So ask questions as we go. I don't want this to be just me talking. Okay. And I'm going to kind of go over some of my thoughts and viewpoints on what's happening. Okay. So that's everything I want to kind of go over as far as ground rules are concerned, if you want to call them that. And so as we kind of dive into this, guys, here's the stage I want to set. Okay. Right now we have a political election going on. We're in the midst of it, right? Nobody knows yet who's going to win. It might be a Republican, same guy that's been in office. It might be a Democrat, a new guy. And we have both sides pinned against the other, right? And so we have people arguing that their side is right. And usually it's an emotional argument. It's I like this guy because I feel warm and fuzzy when he talks and he agrees with my ideals. But I don't look at that stuff. I don't look at any of that stuff. I look at stats. Okay, I look at finances. That's my goal. That's my job. That's my game, is money. So I don't look at who is in office. I look at what's happening financially and economically. Okay, that's it. That's all I'm looking at. Doesn't matter anything else. I don't care what they say about social stuff. They never do it. Like I look at what is happening with the numbers. You want to talk about social justice, poverty, that's social justice. We need to fix that. We don't fix that with a politician. We fix that with economic literacy and helping people understand how money works. Okay. We want to talk about disease. Those that have less money typically get disease more. Guys, I'm in the life insurance industry. Did you know that if you're a wealthy individual, you get cheaper life insurance than those who don't? Because I'm wealthier, therefore I'm healthier. That's the way that the underwriters look at it. So that's literally a statistical proof, like a piece of evidence showing we want to correct like social, like wellness and justice, health. Those are things that are linked to money. Okay. So right now, like we have this whole thing going on with the polls and voting and this nonsense about miscounting votes. And so what I want to do is I want to talk about what do we do in light of what's going on? What do we do in light of what's going on? How do we actually respond and handle this? Okay. Because there's a couple things we can do, right? The first thing we can do is we can ignore everything. Okay. I lived in Alaska. I think I saw like maybe 1/7 of the state even voted, right? Don't care if you vote or don't vote, right? But I'm saying 1/7 of that state even voted. So that means that a lot of people don't even see the point in it. They're like, I'm just going to ignore this and keep on going with my life. Right? That's a response. Another response could be fear. I had someone ask me last night, like, Jerry, what are we going to do? Right? And that's a response. So we could also be in fear. Okay. We could also be in anger. Right? So if we're in anger, like, we're going to attack the other party. We're going to be upset. We're going to be mad. That's where a lot of people are at. Okay. We can also be in a position of responsibility. And that's what I want to talk about tonight. You see, like when we look at money, there's a couple of things that I want to bring up that are just basic fundamentals. Right? When we look at money, we're talking about having like our own like currency that we can exchange with other people. We can spend it, we can invest it. It gives us options, right? And so when we talk about money, what we're really talking about is we're talking about freedoms. When I have more money, I have more options. When I have more options, I can say I have more freedoms. I can do more things. Right. And my personal belief is that there's not a single politician linked to that. Okay. Nobody's going to give me more freedom. My freedom is up to me to create. And so whether it's a Democrat that's in office or whether it's a Republican that's in office, I'm looking at, all right, how do I become more free? Right. And so that's really what this comes down to. So I'm going to share my screen here. I want to go over a couple of things, a couple of pieces of review here. Because a lot of us are looking at the election and we're like, man, how is this going to impact me? How is this going to impact me? What do I need to be thinking about? What do I need to be preparing for? And I'm going to go ahead and hit this with you. So this is something that I've gone over before, but I want to revisit this because, guys, the truth is nothing's going to change. With my personal finances and your personal finances, nothing is going to change. Whether Biden gets in office or Trump stays in office, if I'm broke, I'm still going to be broke. If I have lots of income, I'm still going to have lots of income as long as I keep doing the things that caused me to have lots of income. If I'm investing and earning passive income, I'm still going to have passive income. If I'm overpaying in taxes, I'm still going to overpay in taxes. If I'm underpaying in taxes, I am still going to underpay in taxes. The president of the United States does not change that. Okay. So when I look at this, this is called the scale of wealth. Okay. The scale of wealth, it starts out at the very bottom, right? The very bottom is poverty. Okay. So when we look at this on the poverty scale, money is earned because no time is traded. We talk about all the time, right? We trade time for money. We trade time for money. That's the game that we're in as Americans, is trading time for money, right? So if I'm on this scale, and the reason I'm bringing this scale up is as I'm looking at the election, I need to look at this scale and I need to be really honest with myself about where I'm at. Okay, because it's not going to help me. It's not like if I'm in poverty where I'm not trading time for money, it's not going to help me for Joe Biden to get in office. There's not all of a sudden time and money going to be exchanged for me, right? I might get more subsidies. That's not what it is. That's still poverty. Someone that's living on food stamps and government subsidies, they're not doing well. They're still in poverty. Right? So if I'm in poverty, I need to confront that. The next one up from poverty is laziness. Laziness, again, that's minimal money being earned because minimal time is being traded. Okay. If I'm lazy, the president's not going to help. Okay. The president of the United States is not going to have any impact for me if I'm lazy. I'm still going to be lazy. It doesn't matter which guy gets in office. The next step up from laziness, again, is insolvency. Insolvency means that my money earned, meaning I am earning some money, but it's a great deal less than the time that's being traded. So I'm working really, really hard, but I'm not making very much. Okay. That's insolvency. The president's not going to help that, right? Raising minimum wage is not going to help that. The most money I ever made, guys, is on no wage, commission only. So for me to think, hey, making $15 an hour is going to help, is really not. That's still poverty. $15 an hour, I agree, is not a living wage. The problem is the only way to get that living wage is to produce, to earn more income, right? So we have insolvency. Above insolvency, we have poser. Okay, so we have poser, which is money earned when it's earned, right? Is still less than time traded, but the individual still acts wealthy. This is the issue. This is probably, I would say 70% of America is in the poser category. They're not earning very much money. Okay. They're earning a lot less than they spend. They're trading, as little time possible as they can, but they're still acting wealthy. They're still trying to roll in the house. They're still trying to buy the new vehicles. They're still trying to go on the vacations. They're still trying to keep up with everybody else and make appearances. Guys, that's called financial poser. Like it means that I'm faking it. Okay. And I've been in that category. If I'm a poser, like no president can help me. My biggest enemy, if I'm a poser, is the fact that I lie to myself and others about my financial condition in order to fit in, right? Step up from poser is broke. Okay, now we're finally starting to get into like some semblance of maybe having some light at the end of the tunnel. If I'm broke, that means that my money earned is slightly less than the time traded. Again, I want to review this because it's so important. This is better than poser. Broke is better than poser. It's better than insolvent. Is better than laziness. One step up from broke is stressed. Okay, who's ever been financially stressed? Stressed is when my money earned equals my time traded. It's the same thing, right? That means that my head is at water. It's not above water, it is at water. And if I stop paddling, I'm going to sink. That's stress. And you can see, I've been there. You can see why it's stressed. I have to constantly be in motion in order to stay alive, right? Stress. Then we have middle class. Middle class means that the money that I've earned barely exceeds the time traded. Okay, I want to hit this really quick. When I see either side, Democrat or Republican, it does not matter. I see a lot of posting about the middle class. Okay, about the Republicans think that the Democrats are going to destroy the middle class and all of this stuff. And then the Democrats think that the middle class is being destroyed already because of the wealthy billionaires. Right? They're both kind of saying the same thing. They both kind of think that the middle class is being destroyed. They just are pointing at the wrong indicator. Guys, I'm here to tell you the middle class has been getting destroyed since the 1930s. I would say the 1920s. And it's not, and the politicians are in on it, and the banks are in on it, and the billionaires are in on it. And we all are pointing at who we're going to vote for, acting like it's going to change. Guys, it hasn't changed since the 1920s. I can show you statistic after statistic of the wealthy are getting more wealthy and the middle class dwindling and dying and not keeping up with taxes and inflation. It's not a thing of policies and laws. It's a thing of economics. Okay. So I stopped and paused on this one because that's a big debate on the election is the middle class. Both sides are trying to protect it. Both sides think that the other side is ruining it. And the reality is it's been getting ruined. It's actually a fallacy. Okay. Before the United States was a country, we were back in just Great Britain. And prior to that, there's never been a middle class. There's been wealthy people and poor people. There's been producers and consumers. Right? Because the money doesn't stay in the middle. It goes either up or it goes down, right? And what happens is naturally the wealthy people who are more apt at producing usually get it from those that have it through exchange and products and services and people buying things, right? And then what happens is when a government interferes, they try and redistribute the wealth. So they try and take it then from those that are wealthy and bring it back down to those who are not. Right. So the Republicans are saying, hey, we like it when the guys at the top earn and they have no interference and the government's not messing with it. Right. The Democrats are saying the guys at the top are stealing from everybody. The guys at the bottom don't have anything. Guys, this is a natural phenomenon. It's like gravity. Imagine not being aware that gravity was a thing and having one party arguing, saying that the ground pulls everything down, and the other party arguing and saying, no, the sky pushes everything down. Okay. It's not how that works. It's just gravity. Like there's the idea that somebody can pin us to argue against each other on that. Like there's no logic there, because it's not a winning argument, because it's not a true and correct observation of what's actually happening. So the middle class is a fallacy. It's an arbitrary. It's been created. It is artificial. And what that means is, just like gravity, if we try and suspend something in the air, gravity is always going to try and pull it down. Doesn't matter how hard we try, how convenient we try and make it, how much invention and creativity we put into it, gravity is not going to go away. So the middle class, we have to keep creating it. Otherwise, it's just going to disappear. The wealthy people will get all the money. The middle class will turn into the poor. Some of the middle class will turn into the wealthy, and there won't be one. That's normal. That's a natural phenomenon, right? So I wanted to hit that because it shows a lot of the uncertainty and disagreement. But it also shows like it's something that happens normally. It's not being caused. Nobody's doing it on purpose. It's just a normal phenomenon, right? So above middle class, the next step we have then is comfortable. So if I'm comfortable, that means that I've got no passive income. Okay, we're going to talk about passive income tonight. I've got no passive income, and the money that I earn slightly exceeds the time that I trade. It means that I can save. I've got surplus left over, and I've got some cushion. I'm above middle class. I'm better off than most people, which is why I call it comfortable, because that's usually where someone stops. Got the house, got the car, got the 401k. I'm putting money into that every month. You know, I get a nice tax refund. We go on vacation. Like those are all indicators that I'm living in the financial band of comfortable. Above comfortable is well off. I have some passive income, and then the money that I earn greatly exceeds the time I've traded. Well off is better than comfortable, but it's not the finish line. Finally is wealthy. Okay, wealthy means that my income exceeds my expenses. I am saving 40% of my income, okay? And I have money that's being earned without time being traded. I have lots of passive income. That's wealthy, right? Now, in our country, we have wealthy people. We have some of, I think in our country, we have the more wealthy people than any country in the world, which is amazing. That's awesome, right? So what I want to kind of talk about tonight is, what are those guys doing? Okay, are they on Facebook and are they on Instagram sharing memes about the election and oogling over the electoral college and who's going to win? No, they're not. Okay, like to be honest with you guys, this is a stat that I saw yesterday. The billionaires in the United States in 2020, this year, they've made over 900 billion extra dollars this year. 900 billion extra dollars. Right. So we can look at that and we can be like, that's evil and that's wrong. But the reality is we would all like that. You would like that. I would like that. If we had that kind of earning power, we wouldn't complain about it. It's not like you give it back. Okay. You wouldn't feel bad for doing it, because if you did it in a way where you actually exchange with people, there's no problem with it. Okay. But what does that show us, right? What does that tell us when we look at the political landscape and everything that's going on? What that tells me is that they were not betting on the election. Literally they might have been, but I mean figuratively. They were not looking at which president is going to get elected so that it can improve my life. That is not what the wealthy people looked at. They did all of this before the election. Like, this is a statistic that was released in October. So prior to the election even happening, the wealthiest people in our country collectively made an extra $900 billion this year. Okay, that is the behavior that I want to point out, because that's what we should all be trying to do. In our own way, at our own level. We shouldn't be looking at how do I get, the right guy in office so that my life can be easier. We don't need to be looking at like, how do I try and prevent people from, getting an office that I don't like or agree with. Okay, again, like I said, I think both parties are wrong. I don't think either of them is on our side. I think they're both working for the same people. It's just a different flavor, so they can survey and see which portion of the country agrees more with it. And if it's more people that agree with the Democrat message, great, let's put a Democrat in office. He's just the manager of the shop, not the owner. There are owners, right? So when we look at all this stuff, like, what do we actually do? If Trump gets in, what do we do? If Biden gets in, what do we do? Okay, again, it goes back to the scale of wealth. I have to understand, before I ask the question, what do? I have to ask the question, where am I? Okay, where am I is not my political stance. It's not my religious stance. It's where my finances at right now. I have money. Money is math. This math is an accounting system that represents my thoughts, actions, and behaviors. And the better I think, act, and behave, the more money I'm going to have, and the higher up on the scale I'm going to be. The worse off I act, think, and behave, the less money I'm going to have, the lower I'm going to be on the scale. President cannot help me with how I behave. Congress cannot help me with how I behave. The mayor of my town cannot help me with how I behave. Only I can do that. That's why it's called personal finance. Okay, it's not called presidential finance. It's not called governmental finance. It's personal finance because I am the one that controls it. Okay, so here's the secret that I want to let you in on. What do we do with the election? With our finances? Absolutely nothing different than what I've been saying for the last 3 years. Earn income. Save the income, invest the income, period. Doesn't matter who's in office. If they lower taxes, great. I'm going to like that. If they raise them, I don't care. I know how the tax code works. I'm not going to pay them anyways. You should have the same attitude. And the reason I can have that attitude and take that stance is because I know. I have knowledge because I've studied it. And that's what I'm saying, guys, is the amount of people that understand the media and the political system and the electoral college versus the amount of people that understand money. It's embarrassing. It is something that we should all look at and be shocked. Like, how are we this financially illiterate, but we're this into politics and government? I talked to someone the other day that said their 9-year-old daughter is on the Trump train, like voting for Trump. Again, I don't care if you vote for Trump. That's great. I don't like either of them. But she's 9 years old and she knows more about Donald Trump than she probably does about money. That should never be the case, right? So the other thing that I want to share with you tonight, this is all basics that I want to go back over because it's easy to get distracted, which is what I talked about last week. And when we get distracted, like we start looking for other answers, right? And when we start looking for other answers, that's where we end up on a totally different path, right? Like we start looking like the map is actually somewhere other than it really is. So let me share my screen again. If you guys are on Instagram, if you go to my Facebook page, instead you guys can see my screen sharing. I know someone mentioned the green screen. The green screen is because I'm actually doing this on Zoom. Instagram does not have Zoom. So you guys, if you would prefer to see the actual screen and the background, all that, go to my Facebook, just go to Jerry Fetta. You'll see everything there. But this guy's on Facebook. You're going to see this. I just pulled this up. This is the triangle of financial results. Okay. The triangle of financial results, because this is what it comes down to. We're all looking at how do we get better results this year than we got last year? How do we get better results in this next 4 years than we had in the last 4 years? Right? Well, first it's going to start with knowledge. Okay. Do I actually understand finances? Do I actually understand money? Okay, do I know what money is? I had a financial advisor arguing with me last night on Facebook, actually, a guy that I've known for a couple of years, and he doesn't understand money. He didn't actually know what money was. He was telling me money is a tangible hard asset. And it's like, no, it's fiat, it's paper, it's backed by nothing. But if I don't know that about money, and then I get trapped in the game of trying to collect money, because I'm going to tell you what's about to happen with our currency, which is not going to be fun for any of us. And it doesn't matter who's in office. It's going to happen anyways. Okay. If I don't understand that money is not backed by anything, and that when it goes down in value every year and I keep trading my time for it, I'm actually becoming enslaved. I'm trading my time for something that's worth nothing. My time is worth everything. My time is what my life is made of. I'm trading that, which is infinitely valuable, for something that is worth nothing. It's zero, right? Literally, like our currency goes down in value by about 5% every single year. Okay, I don't get raises if I'm a W-2 worker and I'm making the $15 an hour minimum wage, or I'm making the $40,000 a year income. They're not giving me a 5% annual raise. So that means that I work harder every single year for less money, right? If I don't know that, then I'm never going to understand why life seems to get harder every year. Okay, who feels that way? There's a lot of people in the US pissed off right now because they're like, life has been getting harder. Okay, the middle class is disappearing. Groceries went up, gas went up, our incomes didn't, and the wealthy got wealthier. Right? That's what we've been experiencing. Okay, and then again, we mistakenly, because we don't have knowledge, we mistakenly think it's because of who's in office, who is the politician in charge. Okay. And then we start looking at, well, we need to vote that guy out. Guys, let me point out every 1 to 2 cycles, it's going to be a Democrat or Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican. If you go to, this is a good example, go to WTFhappened in 1971.com, and you're going to see since 1971, wages have been dropping, right? The wealth gap has been widening, right? Racial financial inequality has been increasing. These are not things that are new. They've been happening since the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. And there's been Democrats in office, and there's been Republicans in office. And if you look at these trends, you're going to see that they've never improved. Doesn't matter. They continued getting worse. There's nobody out there that's going to be in office that will change this. It comes down to our knowledge, right? So do I know what money is? And there's plenty of information about that. But the thing that I want to share with you about knowledge on money is knowing that money is an idea, backed by confidence, used as a medium of exchange. It's not green paper. It's not something I hold that's tangible. It's an idea. Okay. Because before we had green paper, we didn't have green paper. We had gold. Okay, before we had gold, we didn't have gold. We just had coins, and we had, grains and oats and whatever else. Like I've talked about this before. So if I don't understand it's just an idea, then I'm going to get very, very connected to it. And it's going to be harder for me to earn it. And it's going to be harder for me to let go of it. And it's going to be harder for me to connect like with investments and opportunities because I'm afraid to lose this thing that I've been collecting. Guys, money is not a thing. That's the point I want to get across on financial knowledge. Now, this is real stuff here. You guys can fact check me on this. So one of the things that we've been waiting on is the next round of stimulus, right? In March, April, they released $1,200 to everybody. They gave millionaires millions of dollars in interest-free forgivable loans. Everyone else got $1,200. Did you know that $1,200 that you received was actually $6,000 worth of stimulus? For every $12,000 you got, $6,000 was released. Sorry, not 12,000, 1,200. For every $1,200 you got, $6,000 was released. The remainder wasn't given to you and I. It was given to the wealthy. And guess what? That stimulus money that was released, guess where it came from? It didn't come from anywhere because we didn't have it. It's going to come from future taxation. Okay. So we're all looking at like this argument of like the next round of stimulus and when's Congress going to approve it. Guys, here's exactly what's going to happen. You can mark my words on this. Okay. Right now we are on a paper currency system because the majority of our nation does not understand money. And it does not matter whether Trump gets in office or whether Biden gets in office. This is going to happen either way because it's been the plan all along, and neither of those guys matter. They're both pawns. Okay. I know this is heavy stuff, but this is really what's going on. So we're going to move over to a digital dollar system. Okay, it's going to be a United States-based cryptocurrency. Now, all the Bitcoin fiends are going to be like, yes, we're going to be on We're not going to be on Bitcoin, guys. This is going to be an electronic dollar that is directly run by the Federal Reserve Bank or the International Monetary Fund. If you look at the history of either of those two organizations, that should scare you to death. Okay, what's going to happen? This is already being put in place by Congress. Is in 2021. Well, okay, and the next round of stimulus is going to be sent out to these digital payments. Okay, all of this is going to be connected to a blockchain. They can track all of our transactions, all this stuff. Now, the whole thing happening with the votes, okay, the voter fraud that's happening and all the craziness that's happening there. Did you know in August, wait till I connect these dots. In August of this year, the United States Post Office of all organizations filed a patent for a blockchain-based voting system. Okay. These digital wallets that I just mentioned, guess who's going to help distribute them? Also the post office, right? So we're going to have our money government controlled, connected to the central bank, directly from the central bank, fully trackable, fully transactable. They're going to be able to limit, monitor, control every transaction we make, tax it. We won't even need the IRS anymore because they just pull the money right out of the account, right? Connected with the place we vote with. And it's all going to be on the blockchain, and they're going to know what we made, what we spent, who we voted for. And all of this is going to be controlled by the central bank. The central bank is a private organization. It's not a government agency. It's not united. It's not federal. It's called the Federal Reserve Bank. It's not federal. It's a private organization. Okay, it's got no reserves, there's no money there, and it's not a bank because you can't go there. It's about to become a bank because of the digital wallets that they're releasing. Okay, the reason I say this is as soon as we get on a central bank run cryptocurrency, guys, it's game over. It will become like freaking communism, like that. It'll be just so rapid. Okay, but we're not even looking at that. All of this stuff has been happening while the elections have been going on. Guess what else also happened? A couple days ago, they just announced that the United States Treasury is going to have to borrow another $600 billion just to cover the United States bills over the next 3 months because we don't have enough money to cover what we spent. This was in the papers. Okay, we're not looking at this stuff. We're not paying attention to any of this because we're so distracted with which old white guy is going to become the president of the United States. Let me give you guys some help. Donald Trump is a top 1%er. To be in the top 1%, you have to have a $10 million net worth. He's over that. Guess what? Biden is also a top 1%er. Biden has a $10 million net worth. They're both old top 1% white guys. It does not, there's no difference, right? So my point is we should know more about the money side of this. We should know more about the money side of this because this is the stuff that's actually going on. So to have financial results, I have to have knowledge. The other thing I have to have is money. Okay, who's ever tried to learn about something without ever actually seeing it? It's tough, right? If you're in a textbook and you can't see a picture, or let's say I'm learning about this iPhone charger and I don't have it in front of me, right? It's going to be difficult for me to understand what it is because it's like it's this flat little platform with this thing off of it and you hook something called an iPhone into it and you plug it into the wall. Like my mind can draw so many pictures of what that might look like and how it works. And 99.9% of the time, I could be wrong about it and have no idea because I don't have the thing in front of me. So for me to have financial results, I actually have to have money. This is the other problem is if we switch to a digital currency system, we will not have money. We will have digits on a screen. Okay, when I was a kid, the best way I learned about money was when I held it and I could count it and I could see it and I could have it in my hand and I could see if I add it, it grows. If I take it away, it goes down lower and it disappears. So if we have an entire population that already does not have education and knowledge on money, and then we take away the very thing that they would need to have in hand to learn about money, they're never going to know about it. Right. So to have financial results, I've got to have knowledge, but I've also got to physically have money so that I can hold it and see it and have reality on it and find out how it works. Right. It's easier for me to count and stack and divide and all this stuff. And then the final thing is I have to have application. I actually have to be able to do what I'm learning. Okay, a lot of us, we don't do what we learn. We learn about something and then we move on to the next thing because we didn't understand the first thing we learned about. So then we never actually do it. And then we never actually have knowledge. And then the cycle just repeats. If I don't have knowledge and I don't have money, therefore I don't apply anything with my money. And then I reduce my knowledge even more. It's just an out of control spiral. Okay, this is what I do. This is what I teach. So like when we're looking at like, what are we supposed to do? Like the first thing is gain knowledge about money, guys. Understand money. The way that you understand money is by looking at it and having it and touching it and learning about it and holding it and studying people that had it, right? Like, and I'm going to be totally upfront. There are a lot of, you know, like if you look at the more Democrat leaning people, they're against a lot of the top 1%ers. There are a lot of freaking scumbag top 1%ers out there. Like I mentioned, the central bank, you look up that organization, the Federal Reserve Bank, and where it started, it's criminal. So I'm right on track with you that yes, there are a lot of groups and people out there that are wealthy that take advantage of people like you and I and middle class and lower class families in order to have their wealth. And objectively and morally, it's wrong, right? But it still works. I should still understand what they're doing and how they're doing it. Doesn't mean that I'm going to practice the wrong side of it. But you take somebody like John Rockefeller, right? Way back in the early 1900s, in business, the guy was a scumbag. Okay. What he would do, he would take his oil company, he would go into a new territory with his competitors. He would reduce his prices all the way down to where he was losing money, because if he was losing money, they were definitely losing money. He just had enough money where he could outlast them. Once they were no longer in business, he would buy their companies. He would offer the owners of those companies to become partners in his company. And then he would jack the oil prices up higher than they ever were in that area. And nobody could do a damn thing about it because there was no more competition in the area. This is why we had antitrust rules and monopoly rules, right? So that guy, scumbag move, right? I'm not going to do that, but I do need to understand, wow, that worked. It was evil, but it worked. What did he do? What are the mechanics? Because what if I could apply those mechanics to something that wasn't evil, right? Because money is objective. It's amoral, right? It amplifies more of what I already was. So if I get it and I turn into an evil person, I was already an evil person before I ever had it, right? So we have on this knowledge thing, we have to separate away from being afraid of what money is going to do to us if we understand, or making the wealthy so wrong that we don't want to learn about them, because then we're never going to understand money. So those are the things that I would be doing right now to learn more about money, right? Now, as far as like stats are concerned, right? Politics are concerned. The things that I actually look at are our gross domestic product, which is kind of okay to look at, but I look at it in relation to our debt. Okay. Anybody here work at a car dealership, or have you been to a car dealership where you get financing? They'll only finance a certain percentage of the value of the car. Usually it's 120%, and that's considered subprime, meaning that they're loaning out 20% more than the car is worth potentially, right? That's where you end up upside down on a vehicle, where you owe more than you own on the vehicle, right? The United States works the same way. There's something called the debt to GDP ratio, right? The way that our country works, and I've covered this before, is we borrow money from the Federal Reserve Bank in order to stay in business and pay the bills and do all this public work stuff that we're looking to do. And then we hope that we can maintain the interest payments. Now we're to a point where we can't. Like I said, this quarter, the US Treasury is going to have to borrow another 640 billion, I believe is the number. You guys can check on that, but it's like 600, like mid to high 600 billions that our government is going to have to borrow to stay afloat, which means we can't even service the debt that we have right now. We can't even service the bills that we have right now. Okay. So when I look at that, that happened when Trump was in office. That happened when Obama was in office. That happened when Bush was in office. That happened when Clinton was in office. It does not matter. Every single president since 1913 has done that, right? Woodrow Wilson was the first. Started World War I as soon as he got the central bank got involved and they financed it, right? So when I look at that, that's the number that I actually am concerned about, right? The reason why is the more money that our country borrows, that means that we're going to pay taxes on that in the future. That interest that our government owes. Our government doesn't have revenue other than taxation, right? Taxation means I work and they keep a portion of my income. Nobody likes paying taxes. I've talked to the freaking most socialist people you could meet that have these viewpoints on government helping, yada, yada, yada. And then when I ask them about their personal taxes, they're like, yeah, if I don't have to pay more taxes, I don't want to. Now they haven't connected the dots on, well, that's how socialism works, is you raise the taxes, right? But what I'm saying is the individual understands that they don't want more of their income taken. They want to keep more of their income. I worked for it. I want to keep it, right? But if our government, doesn't matter which party, keeps borrowing money, they're going to raise taxes. Okay, in 1913, the first year we had income tax, the highest tax bracket was 7%. 7%. Right now it's 37%. If you do the math on that, if you put that into an investment calculator and you go buy value 7 and then sell value 37, and then you look at that over, what is that, 107-year period, right? You're going to find out the compounding annual growth rate on that. And I think it's around 1.6 or 1.7%, which means every single year since 1913, taxes have gone up by 1.6 or 1.7%. Okay, you can go on an investing calculator and find those numbers. Okay, if we borrow more, which we're borrowing way more than we ever had, that growth rate is going to increase, which means that we keep less of our income. It goes from 40 to 50 to 60. Now, here's the bummer is we see all of this campaigning on raise the tax rates on the wealthy and the top 1%. Guys, they don't pay the taxes. I've talked about this. They don't pay the taxes either way, right? They utilize the tax code to not pay the taxes. So what ends up happening is the middle class ends up paying the taxes. The guys that were trying to get the wealthy taxed end up footing the bill instead, because the wealthy understand money and they understand how to not pay the taxes. So we end up voting to raise taxes because we're like, oh, that'll get that rich guy. And then it ends up on us. Right? So that's something to look at. So the debt to GDP ratio is something I look at. I also look at the price of gold. Right? I look at the price of gold. That's another thing, because gold for me is a safe haven. It's a hard asset. Right? So when gold starts going up, that means that there's more fear and uncertainty. Right? So when I start seeing gold rising, this year gold has risen just tons. Like it was, I think, a 30 or 40% return in the last 12 months. right? So when I start seeing that, that also shows me that the economy is shaky. Okay, one of the things to watch actually on the subject of gold is I actually look at the central banks. Okay, if you go online, you can go Google and you can go look the central banks buying gold. Okay, when I start seeing the central banks of the world buying more gold, that's when I know something is about to happen. Okay, like in 1971 we left the gold standard. They didn't stop buying gold, right? Right now in history, the central banks own more gold than they have since 1971, since we left the gold standard. Okay, so all of this stuff that I'm telling you is really geared toward, guys, just because there's a presidential election doesn't mean that money changed all of a sudden. Okay, we switched to a digital currency. It's not going to dispute the fact that I still have to earn the money, save the money, and invest the money. Right? It's no longer paper. It's just digits on a screen, but that means it's worth even less. So then it's even more important for me to earn lots of it, save it, and then put it into hard assets like real estate, like life insurance, like gold and silver, things that actually have value. Right. And this is again another thing that I want to go over with you guys on this note, because I just want to provide the visual on this. It's so important. I had this conversation with a client of mine yesterday, and it's this thing called the triangle of wealth. Okay, it's called the triangle of wealth. This is something I came up with this year as a visual because there's so much confusion on it. Right? There's so much confusion on it. There doesn't really need to be. It's a very simple thing. Right? We talked about the triangle of knowledge. There's a triangle of wealth too. Right? So whether Biden is president or Trump is president, I need to earn more income. Period. Right? Whether Biden is president or Trump is president, I need to save more of the income that I earned. Period. Whether Biden is president or Trump is president, I need to invest the money that I've saved in order to generate passive income to start replacing my income so that I don't have to worry about inflation. Like I said, inflation is 5% a year, which means my income is losing 5% buying power every single year. And if I don't supplement that with something, then my only other option is to trade more time. That is the purpose of this triangle, right? So I can say I'm not earning enough and then say, man, if I have, a new president, that's going to change it. But that's not actually the reality, right? Like if I'm 28 years old, how many presidents is that I've lived through? 7? Is that right? 28, 4 times 7 is 20. Yeah, I've lived through 7 presidents. So if I've always been bad at earning income and we've had 7 presidents and probably common denominator there was actually me, right? It wasn't the president that affected my income. That changed just because we voted for somebody new, right? If I wasn't saving money the last 28 years of my life over the course of the last 7 presidents, it's not going to change all of a sudden because there's a new guy in office. The common denominator is still me. If I haven't been investing, or let me flip this, if I have been investing, but I've been doing it in a dumb way where I put money with people who shouldn't have gotten it and I lose, that's not going to change just because a new president got in office. This is all linked to my behavior. My behavior is all linked to what's up here. Right? So it's really about this. I could care less about who's in office. Do I change and evolve? And if I don't, I really can't expect anything to improve in my life. They can literally come out with universal income and wealth for everybody, and my life will still suck because I won't know how to earn income, I won't know how to save it, and I won't know how to invest it. And I'm going to be dependent on somebody else for all of those things. And if they ever decide that they're going to change or get rid of it or manipulate me because now I'm hooked on what they have, I kind of have to just do it because I don't know how to earn, save, and invest. Guys, this is as simple as it gets. This is wealth. Earn, save, invest. Period. That's what we have to do depending on the president, Trump, Obama, or not Obama, Biden, doesn't matter. Earn, save, invest. That's not going to go away. So here's what I want you to think about. Okay, and I'm going to open this up for questions in a minute, but here's what I want you to think about. I want you to think about what are your current financial behaviors? Okay, if you were to list them, if you were to get a pen and paper out and list them and say, when I wake up in the morning, I work for these many hours and I make this much money every day. And you actually were to list out like the ingredients or the recipe of what have you been doing to result in your current situation financially, you would actually have a roadmap. And if you followed that roadmap, you would keep getting the same results. right? If I list out everything I do financially and I keep doing everything I've been doing financially, I can't expect it to change. Okay, there's a very simple quote that a mentor of mine shared with me. It's nothing changes unless something changes. Changes don't just happen. Something changed in order for something to change. So if I didn't change anything, nothing's going to change. And especially if it was the president, like that's not going to be on the list of things I did to get money. Right? So if nothing changes, then I'm not going to get different results. So I just have to start looking at if I were to write this list out, and I want to challenge you to actually do this, write the list out. If I were to write this list out and see, this is what I've been doing. I don't like where I'm at. I always say this, you could probably go through the list and write down the opposite of everything and you'd make more money this year. You'd save more money this year. You'd invest more money this year, because logic stands to go to reason. If I don't like where I'm at and I list out all of the things that I've been doing that have led me to that place, I can't keep doing them and expect a different result. Einstein said that's the definition of insanity. Right. So I literally could make the list, write down the opposite of everything I've been doing, and I would probably come out better than I was. Now, that's kind of a low reason way to go about it. Like, you would have change and improvement. But I'm just saying, if you changed it and just did opposite, it would make things better. Now, if you actually objectively looked at each one and asked the question of what is the right thing to do here, which would require financial knowledge, then you would have an even better result. Okay, these are the things we should be doing the rest of 2020. These are the things we should be doing the rest of 2021. Okay, a politician is not going to help you improve that list. A politician is not going to help you change your behavior on that list. Voting, guys, I did the math. I think it's like, let me actually do the math on this again, right? So if we look at this just from a math standpoint, right? We have 24 hours in a day, right? We have 7 days a week. We have 52 weeks in a year. Let's find out what this comes out to. 24 hours a day at 7 days a week at 52 weeks in a year at 60 minutes in an hour times 4 years. So every 4 years, check this out. Every 4 years, there are 2,096,640 minutes. Every 4 years, 2,096,640 minutes happen. Okay. Those minutes represent my actions. What do I do with those minutes? Right? Do I learn about money? Do I invest? Do I actually do things that improve my financial condition? For me to think, out of 2,096,640 minutes, because I spent 60 of them waiting in a line and filling out a bubble on a piece of paper that my life will get better, is ludicrous. Is beyond crazy. Like, there's no reason behind that. There's no logic behind that. Out of 2,096,640 minutes, spending 60 of them voting for a guy is not going to help with the other 2,096,630 whatever minutes. Right? Like, there's still 2 million minutes that I have to spend the next 4 years doing something to result into something. What I did with the other 2 million minutes is what my life is going to look like with my finances, not what I did with the 60. Voting is cool, right? There's a quote by Mark Twain. He says, if voting mattered, they probably wouldn't let us do it. I'm not saying don't vote. I'm saying that's great. You did it. 60 minutes in line, right? You casted your vote. That's great. Now, what about the other 2 million minutes? What about the other 2 million minutes over the next 4 years? What I do with those is going to be the definition of what my life looks like. It does not matter what I did with the 60. Right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which one I spent, my 60 minutes voting for. What did I do with the other 2 million? So guys, what I want to do is I want to open this up for questions. I know that we dove into some controversial topics today, and I want to answer some questions. Typically, I don't talk politics, and I didn't really talk too much about specifics on politics. It's more about economics and the fact that everyone has their attention on politics. But I want to answer some questions and make sure that I'm not leaving anyone hanging with this. Let me start with Instagram. So let me just scroll through. Someone says new world order of if Biden wins. We should probably call it the old world order, because it's not new. This has been a system that's been in place for hundreds of years, and it's not Biden and it's not Trump. It's the people that put this in place way before we ever knew about it. Let's see here. Man, there's a lot of Arabic comments in Instagram. That's awesome. I don't speak Arabic, but thank you for joining. That's awesome that you're watching from over there, wherever you are. Let's see here. So someone asked, who did you vote for? I didn't vote. I actually bought gold that day. I casted my vote for gold. I bought around 6 figures worth of gold that day instead of voting. So someone said, put a Kermit the Frog in the background. On Instagram, my screen behind me is green. That's hilarious. So someone asked, what percentage should go into my 401k? 0% should go into your 401k. The 401k, unless it is self-directed, which yours is probably not if it's being offered through an employer, I would not put anything in it. It's one of the greatest financial scams of all time. Wall Street figured out a way for us to think pay yourself first means pay them first. I would not put any money in the 401k. I don't use one. I never have. I would not recommend it. Someone says buy more guns. I think it's cool to own guns, but guns are not going to make you wealthy, right? So if there's a zombie apocalypse and a civil war, sure, have guns. But if it doesn't happen, which it hasn't since the 1800s, then you're kind of screwed if all you own is guns. Bria, good to see you. Clark, good to see you. Someone said, you are a city boy. You have no idea. I grew up in the sticks, man. All right, that's all I see. Someone says buy Bitcoin. Let me hit this really quick on the Bitcoin thing. Okay, so Bitcoin is not an investment. I want to hit this because it's something I keep saying. Bitcoin is not an investment. It's nothing. There's no value behind it. There's no asset behind it. There's no income behind it. Like, I am buying literally nothing. It's an accounting system, right? It's a digital accounting system. Did it go up in value? Yes, it did go up in value because it's speculative. People are speculating on Bitcoin, no different than speculating on a baseball card, right? So if what I'm saying does happen, where we all end up on a US-based cryptocurrency, Bitcoin will be considered counterfeiting. You will not be allowed to own it. I guarantee that that's what's going to happen. They let the public sector develop it, or sorry, the private sector develop it so that all the work is done, and then the banks can take it over and hijack it, federalize it, and say, hey, you can't own this anymore. Right? So if you're on it, great. Hope you make a ton of money. But at the end of the day, I don't think that it's something that we're going to be allowed to create on our own and have on our own. If there's a federal version of it out there, I think it becomes illegal to own at that point. So now it's a situation of, am I going to commit a crime or not? Now, it's not criminal to own Bitcoin right now, but I'm saying if it becomes counterfeit, it will be considered criminal to own it and criminal to deal with it and criminal to sell it. So that is my thoughts on Bitcoin. I don't own any of it. The reason is it's not an asset. Like, nobody has been able to tell me what I get when I buy Bitcoin. Not did it go up in value? What do I actually get when I buy Bitcoin? So that is my thought on that. All right, let me go ahead and log off Instagram here. We're just hitting all of the opinions tonight. Let's see. Let's check out what we have on Zoom. Nano says, what's the significance / importance of one side that promotes free trade and individual liberties versus equality of outcome and fair for everyone approach? Nano, that's a very good question. I think Nano is asking, like, the Republican Party will say free trade and individual liberties, and then the Democratic Party will say, well, we have to have equal opportunity and we have to level the playing field. Honestly, I think that is a bunch of distraction. Okay, at the end of the day, like, if somebody says, let's say what's a good one? I can't think of a good one. Let's say that I want to do something and the government says that I shouldn't do it, or I'm not allowed to do it, or there's policies against it. Cool. Probably going to do it anyways, right? Speeding. Everyone speeds. Speed limit says not to, right? Everyone does it anyways, right? So it's really just to get us riled up against the other party. At the end of the day, if you want to smoke weed, be gay, whatever it is that you want to, I don't care. Okay. What I'm saying is I do what I want to do. You do what you want to do. There should be nobody governing that as long as I'm not hurting you and you're not hurting me. So for us to have two different viewpoints, one saying we should focus on this and the other saying, no, 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 we should focus on this. Honestly, we should have both. We should have free trade and individual liberties and everyone should be equal. It's all right. So that's why the Republican side, and if you look at both of them, they're both kind of hypocritical, right? Like you'll see, equality and stuff, but then they'll say, yeah, but we're going to do it by stealing from the wealthy. That's not equality. Those guys worked for it, right? You'll also see the Republicans saying fiscal conservative, right? When you look at what they do with our U.S. debt, they're not fiscally conservative. Freaking our U.S. debt grew this year and last year and the year before that and the year before that. Every single year it goes up. So it really is kind of just a sales pitch. It's a marketing thing to get us worked up. Nobody actually follows through on it. And I don't think that they really have individual control over that. Like if I want to do something, I'm going to do it regardless of what a bunch of old white guys said about it in Washington. Don said, is this the cover for your new book? When is your new book going to be available? So Don, that's not the cover for the book. The book will be out in a couple of weeks. It's going through publishing right now, which is taking a little longer than we anticipated, but it will be out in a few weeks. And it's called The Blueprint to Financial Freedom. Okay, so it's going to give you step by step. Okay, step by step, what do I do from ground zero all the way to financial freedom to get there? And it's based off what I've done. It's based off of what I've learned studying the top 1% and what actually works. So what or how are you going to handle all of this digital money situation? I am so much more concerned about this digital money situation than all of the politics. That's a smart question. So for me, nothing is going to change. I'm going to earn more income. I'm going to save more of that income, and then I'm going to buy more hard assets. And I'm not getting into the digital currency. I don't own Bitcoin. If they do a round of US, digital dollar stimulus, I'm not going to take any. I don't need it, right? So my plan is to just stay entirely out of it. The nice thing is with gold, I can send that offshore. So if I need to send it to Switzerland or Singapore, I can. So, depending on what happens, I have the flexibility to do that. But the goal for me is to own assets, right? Assets and currency are two entirely different things. So I can own a bunch of paper or digital currency that can be manipulated. But if I own real estate, it's inarguably real estate. Someone needs to live somewhere. If I own gold, it's inarguably gold. It's valuable, right? So that's my response. Couple more questions. We have one from Anthony. How can I train with you on my money? Anthony, that's an awesome question. So Anthony, if you go to membership.jerryfetta.com, you can get a free membership to Wealth Dynamics University. That's actually an online training portal that we have that goes over literally hundreds of hours of content. If you go through that, you will know as much as I know about money. So that's where I would say to start. If you want to buy that program, it's like $50 a month. Anthony Smith. You can also reach out to Nano Aquino. If you want to drop your phone number to Anthony in the chat, I can get that over to my team and we can connect you with somebody to answer some of your questions on that. AJ says, how do you explain hard assets, or can you explain how hard assets can protect us from government-based cryptocurrency if the latter becomes required? What do you want us to, or what do you want us to do? What you want us to do makes sense. Are we protected? So that's another good question. So again, it's about owning things. So if we do get a US based cryptocurrency, by owning a hard asset, basically like I'm going to have my control over my asset because the income is no longer in my control. Right. So when I look at this from the standpoint of control, right, having income, having my triangle of wealth under my reign, I'm able to do that better with hard assets. And it's also harder to manipulate. So if you look at a cryptocurrency means that we can't withdraw money from the bank, right? I can't control the value of it. The government can infinitely make more of it simply because they have the ability to, right? And so if I have a hard asset, like it takes it to where, hang on, figuring out the chat here. It takes it from a standpoint where my income and my money can be government controlled to where really only I can control it. And so that puts me in a position. Nano, I just posted Anthony's number. Anthony, you can connect with Nano on your question. That puts me in a position where if I own real estate, the government can make more cryptocurrency, just like they can print more money now. And it doesn't change the fact that I own real estate. If I own gold, if they devalue the currency, my gold is going to go up. And that's the other thing too, is by devaluing the currency and reducing the buying power of that currency by having more of it, which is what they're trying to do. They have rounds and rounds of stimulus that they want to send out with this new currency. It's going to devalue the buying power of the dollar, which means that it's going to inflate the value of real assets. So that's how it's going to protect us from the standpoint of creating kind of a hedge, but also making sure we maintain control. Let's see here. Another question. So are you taking your gold to the grocery store to buy food and goods? No, so I'm using my gold to buy assets. I'm using my currency to buy food and goods. So it's probably going to be a mandatory thing that you transact with it. That happens, then that goal would be to own as little of that as possible. Okay, and the reason I would want to own as little of that as possible is because I would want to keep my money in real assets. So if I keep more money in real assets, it means that I'm not going to keep as much money in cryptocurrency. I'm not going to keep as much money in digital dollars. Another question. So if that doesn't matter, one side promotes control and individual liberties. I see a lot of suppression behavior coming more from one side, preventing businesses, churches to open. Finances, most definitely one that needs to be aware of functionality. But is rest of control suppression to be overlooked as distractions? I don't know how else to say this. Churches have been closed. Look who has been president. It's not going to change. Like we've had Trump in office as president. Churches and schools have been closed. If he wanted them open, they would be open. He could do an executive order and say, open them all. So that's what I'm saying is it's easy to think, oh, the Democrats, the Republicans. No. They're literally like just the PR figures that we all look at. There's other people that control all of that. And it has nothing to do with Democrats and Republicans. The bottom line is someone wanted the country closed, and it's closed even though Trump was president. If he wanted it open, it would have been open, and he would have called an executive order and said, open all of the states. He's got the ability to do that. So that's what I'm saying is it's very easy to get caught up in the drama behind that party and this party. Look at where is it coming from? Who is purporting this stuff, right? And if it's wrong, why are people getting involved in it rather than just saying, no, that's wrong. We're not even going to pay attention to it. Instead of saying, well, that's wrong, I'm going to take an opposite stance against it and be a Republican or a Democrat. If it doesn't make sense, don't be either of them, is my point. So I hope that answers that question. Again, these are just my viewpoints with what I see going on. It doesn't mean you guys have to believe them, but I want to share this from the standpoint of finances. Okay. States were closed, churches were closed, schools were closed. Did I improve my finances? It doesn't need to be open for me to improve my finances. I can do school, church, all that stuff at my house. I've been doing that, right? So my finances are something that I can improve regardless. But if I get caught up on there's a piece of land with invisible lines around it, and that piece of land with invisible lines around it won't open their churches so that people can go into a building together and worship, instead of improving my finances, because I can't fix or change any of that stuff anyways, that's not going to help me move the ball forward. So that's my main point there. All right, let me see what questions we have on Facebook. Facebook is taking their time tonight. Okay, awesome. Plenty of comments on Facebook here. Click to expand. That's what I clicked. Man, this might be faster just to do Facebook on my phone. I'm going to do that. So I've got some questions on Facebook I want to answer. If you guys have questions on the stream here still, you can drop those on Facebook or Instagram. Justin, good to see you. Can you put a copy of the scale in the comments? I don't think I have that commentable. That's a word. But that is something on our university. You can also email me directly if you'd like a copy of that, and I can make sure you get one. What other questions do we have? John says, respect the hustle. Appreciate you, John. Todd, good to see you. Jason, good to see you. John asks, can we get a recording of this or is there a replay? There will be a replay of this. So if you want to see the replay, you can see here on Facebook. You can also go to our YouTube channel. You can also go to Wealth Dynamics University and sign up there for our university and get all of the replays of all of our courses. Joel says, since silver is cheaper, has a lower barrier to entry, would you recommend it? Joel, that's a good question. So I do like silver. It depends on what I'm doing with it, right? So if you look at just over the last 20 years, gold has a higher rate of asset. I might be able to get a higher jump and go to silver. Look at silver, for example, is this year. Something that $20 an ounce down to $12 an ounce. Very volatile. Now, if I bought it at 12 and now it's up to like 25, I doubled my money. Versus if I bought it 2 years ago and held it, it's kind of where it has been the entire time. Right? So that's something I would be looking at with gold and silver. I'm looking at something stable. I'm going to buy gold. If I'm looking at something that's going to have more volatility that I can get potentially more aggressive upswings on, then silver would be the way to go. Joel says, you don't believe Bitcoin is a store of value. It can't be considered digital gold. In my opinion, Bitcoin is a very secure Venmo account. I don't know what value would it have. I've researched this and looked at it. You don't get anything when you buy it. The only value it has is perception. And that's not real value. Like that's literally, it can be currency. Like it totally could be currency, but it doesn't have any values. It's not a store of value. So I've seen posts about protect your wealth with Bitcoin. Like I'm not going to protect my wealth with something that is invisible and has no actual production value or asset value. Like someone maybe help me here. Like other than just security, what is it? I know there's limited store of it, but I can make a limited store of anything and it doesn't mean that it's valuable. So it's missing the component of having an asset or having an income to actually make it worth something that I would want to own. Brad says, do you think that owning gold will become illegal again? And if the government makes you sell it, will history repeat? At this point, I don't think they're going to make gold illegal again. Even when they did back in the day, like a lot of people were just like, cool. Like, it's kind of like saying, turn in your guns. I'm not going to like prove to me that I have guns, like come to my house and look. Like that's my attitude towards this. I don't think gold is going to become illegal. If it ever did become like questionably like that, I would send my gold off to Singapore or Switzerland or somewhere of that nature where I've got the ability to, move my gold around without it being maybe under the microscope of the IRS. Josue says, have our focus on what we can control. That's totally true. All right, I think we have a couple more questions here on Zoom. I think that's all of our questions. Let me make sure we don't have any more on Facebook, and then we can start to log out here. Yeah, I think that covers it. So guys, thank you so much for watching. I want to say that I appreciate everyone's time today. I know that everyone has been just barraged to death with politics and elections and this and that. And so I hope that you got something out of this course tonight that was maybe a little bit of a different viewpoint. Because I don't really care about who wins. I care about you winning. I care about me winning. I care about all of us improving our finances. And I don't care which guy is in office when it happens. Like the frank thing of it is I do this to help you. I do this because this information has helped me so much. And that's what matters. So thank you for putting up with it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening through it. Thank you for hearing my viewpoints. If you watch this and you would like to get more help from us, you can reach out to Nano Aquino. You can reach out to myself. You can also go to membership.jerryfetta.com. You can go again, membership.jerryfetta.com. Get a free copy of Wealth Dynamics University. You get a 14-day free trial of Wealth Dynamics University. Hundreds of hours of content just like this that's in there. Spend time on it, okay? Because we spend enough time on God knows what else, right? And it doesn't move the ball forward with us financially. So again, go to membership.jerryfetta.com. You can get a free 14 trial of Wealth Dynamics University. Thank you again for watching. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe if this helped you, and I will talk to you again next week.